no.
Please keep that.
There we go. Now we're talking. All right. We're at 14 now. 14, almost legal. Another couple episodes. We're going to be all right. I am Dantron. This is a law episode. I'm excited about it. We have some guests here today. Some of you have seen them around. Some of you might not have seen them on law episodes before. I'm pretty excited. What I have first off to my on the screen, that would be that direction, is Wolfman, my partner in crime.
What's up?
Other side over here, we got Wales.
What to do, everyone?
All right, then we're going this direction down here. The mad scientist himself, Arcade Adam.
Howdy.
And then, last but definitely not least, this is the frosting for today. Is going to be Scantron 5K right over here.
It's too much. Thank you very much. Let's lose. No preservation.
Let's lose our sobriety. That's what we should lose.
Yeah, let's lose sobriety, bro.
So,
cheers,
Wolfman. As always, why don't you go ahead and tell us what we're going to be talking about today?
Right, and I don't really even consider myself an expert on this. It's gonna be interesting to hear from Arcade Adam and Scan and these guys that have been in the arcade, parts, and they kind of know what's going on. I myself don't have a real arcade machine. I have an emulation machine. I do have many, 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 many consoles. And, part of the discussion and talk tonight is what is the future of gaming and how do we preserve these games, these arcade boards, so people can continue to have fun and play with them in the future. Because unless you've been living under a turnip, you know that there's a big push to go to all digital. You're already starting to see it happen. You got Xbox Game Pass and Sony trying to compete, and the cost of printing manuals and cases and stuff is going the way of the dodo. And for people like myself who collect that stuff, because not only do I enjoy collecting, but I believe in preserving these games so my kids and their kids could play these games one day. We're going to get into all of this stuff today. It's going to be awesome. So anybody that wants to jump in with any topic that they're interested in under this umbrella, go ahead.
So
I think it's funny you said
cheers.
You didn't have much to contribute and you just laid off this huge foundation where you could absolutely
No expert, but I know everything.
Right. Yeah.
Go, exactly.
So I'll just start it off with a quick little example real quick before we throw it to one of the guests. So perfect example for preservation is some of you know I have Hydro Thunder arcade machines. The actual arcade version of Hydro Thunder, the specific arcade drop of Hydro Thunder has not been done, has not been released. If you're going to play it emulated or in any other way, you're going to be playing the PC version or a Dreamcast version or something like that. So that's what I'm talking about as far as preservation. And again, Wolf touched on physical kind of going away because of marketing and cost and all that stuff. They're going to still charge you the same amount, but they're going to give you less. Don't even get me started, but we're going to get started. But an example for arcades, right? We got these arcade machines that if they're gone and they're just crushed, then what happens? Where does this stuff go? I mean, my kids freaking love these things. And so that's another reason why I want to, like Wolf said, this stuff needs to just carry on. It's not just for me and my kids, but it's being able to enjoy this stuff as I'm like a old grandpa with my great grandkids or whatever. And it's kind of scary because of the nostalgia and the memories that I have with a lot of these games. And now just the fear that they're just not going to be around. It's not like, oops, I lost it. I just got to go and buy another version of it. No, the arcades being gone already. There's very few of them around. And if they are around, they're all that new ticket redemption garbage. So that stuff scares me more than anything else because it is a part of, I will say, my heritage growing up. And I'm excited about this episode because I want to hear a bunch of the different guys that are on here, their different perspectives, because we've all grown up around games. It doesn't have to be PC games, console games, arcade games, just gaming in general. And so, hey, again, thanks, guys, for hanging out.
Hey, man. I appreciate you having me on here. Honestly, I didn't really know what I was going to be able to contribute, but once we started talking about, the preservation of not only current gen consoles and stuff like that, I mean, we saw consoles single-handedly wipe out arcades. in the 90s.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's a perfect example. You want to start from square one, which is arcades going console. I think the one saving grace that this community has is the fact that the community itself probably won't let that happen. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of people out there that are going to be parting things out. I mean, listen, I bought legit PCB boards when I was putting a JAMA switcher into my Mortal Kombat machine, but those boards work, and some of them have been repaired. They're not making them anymore. However, you know, people can burn EEPROM chips and all those things to keep the boards, the PCB boards up and running. So even if you fry EEPROM chips and stuff, people are able to do that. And I just think it's always been cool to see people figure these things out, to be able to preserve those things. And having been someone that's in the buy, sell, trade category of arcade gaming for a very long time, I think it's cool that in present day, I can still get the things I need. And even though they're not making them, you can still make that type of stuff happen. But I don't know how long that's going to be around, probably as long as they can keep doing it. But if they're not making the PCBs, then that is obsolescence like square one right there. You know what I mean? So.
Yep. Scan, I'm glad you brought up the double-edged sword of, you know, the stuff is designed to replace itself, and it's designed to, you know, one thing replaces the other, and it makes the proliferation and the restoration and the hobby that much more difficult. But in turn, that seems to also inspire the community to just try that much harder. So I think it's a back and forth and a give and take. But where I'm afraid of for the future is, I think about from my son's perspective, he likes Fortnite right now. And we've never had a physical copy. We've never had a manual. We've never had anything tangible. So when 10 years from now, when he looks back on hopefully fond memories playing with me, he has got nothing physical to help remember that fun that we had playing that game. And that's kind of sad to me. So I think it's definitely, you know, it's things twist and turn through life as we progress and move forward. But it's just, that to me is something negative, I guess.
And that's already happened.
I agree.
That's already happened. Overwatch, it had a physical, but it was so tied into an online version. You had to be online, and they're on specific online servers that kept that game going. And it had a huge following for a long time. But then, guess what? Overwatch 2 is so much better that original Overwatch is gone. It's freaking hard to even play. I mean, you might be able to find it and play it just offline or whatever, because they did have some physical copies of it, but it's super hard. It's not something that you can just get back in. And like, I can't get back in and play with my kids on 2 Xboxes. It just doesn't work that way. It's because you have to run through server portals and stuff. So, and then Overwatch 2 comes along. It's not the same, and people don't like it. I don't like it. But that's a perfect example of like Fortnite. Like, there's old versions, like the old Fortnite maps and stuff, that they don't get a chance to play. Sometimes they bring it back around. But what happens when Epic gets sold again or gets sued into oblivion? That game's just gone because there's been no physical copies of it. And you're right, that stuff scares the heck out of me too, because I'm just like, you know, I had great memories playing original Overwatch with my girls, and we can't even do that. And they've asked me specifically, can we just play the regular Overwatch? I have to tell them no. I don't know how. So yeah, it's crazy.
Real quick. Go ahead, Scan.
I didn't have anything really important to say. I was just going to say that I personally don't like anything that requires you to be online to play it. I really don't. I'll play it, but that's not really my type of game. If it's something that requires me to be online, blah, blah, blah. But I think anything that requires you to be online just to be able to play something, I'm a big advocate of, if they can give it to you that way, they can take it away from you that way. And unless you have physicality in the equation, then that's what it all boils down to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Before we hop to Wales, because I'd love to get his insight on what was being discussed, Adam he hit a nerve with what he said. He talked about how his son is enjoying Fortnite, and my younger son, I think it might be like a year and a half older than your son, and he's playing Fortnite now, and this is a relatively new phenomenon. So he's into it. He takes his Switch Lite over to his friend's house, and he loves it. and he wants to get like all these skins and stuff. And I tell him if he does good on his report card, you'll get it. But he comes downstairs and sees all these game cases that I have, thousands of games and stuff. So I was at the flea market and I saw PS4 put out a case and cover art for Fortnite.
Oh,
And instead of the game being in there, it's a code so you could get online. There's no game disc. So I actually spent money to just get the artwork and game case, and he has it in his room hanging up on his wall. Because, like you said, I want him to have something to remember these times. And unfortunately, a game case and some, crappy artwork is all he's going to get.
that's both great that that's a thing, but also sad that we have to go to that point to buy
Exactly.
game codes that are irrelevant or don't work just to enjoy something physical like that. That's
I know.
Ah,
Sad.
That's how it goes with just not only games, but then the microtransactions and stuff that are, based on them. Like Scan said, to be online, to play, they can take it away online. And that's how it was, because we all grew up playing games and sitting side by side or standing side by side at the arcade joints and stuff. And we didn't have to have online because A, it wasn't there, but B, games existed without it. So now all of a sudden games can't live without it when they did, years and stuff ago. And so with my kids, they don't do Fortnite because A, I just don't allow it. And B, they're more into another type of thing, which isn't again, there's no physical copy of the game or anything. It's all online, and that's Roblox. Their big thing is Roblox. And that they don't, instead of skins, they want the Robux. And so I do the same thing Wolfman does, is okay, well, I mean, no C's and stuff like that on report card. I'll get you $5-10 of Robux and stuff. But I mean, I sit there, watch it play it, and it's just on their tablet and there's nothing else. And so my son, one time when he dropped his tablet and it broke and stuff, he had to get a new one, it wouldn't transfer stuff over. And so he had to start his whole account over again because there was some issue with it and stuff. Whereas if it was a physical game or something, you'd pop it in, you'd have your save state and move on. But because everything was up in the cloud or whatever they do, you run the risk of losing everything that you may have spent however many hours and days and months and whatnot building up your currency and everything. And because it's all online, there's nothing for you to physically have in your hand as a backup. That could essentially just get wiped out, and then you're left at ground zero again. So it's also a scary thing from my kid's standpoint because there's a lot of crying over that. So
Well,
it's
the thing that's crazy.
it's tough.
The thing that's crazy, and you're talking about it too, is like it's the cost, really, as it comes down to everything's marketing and money. So they understand, they as in the big they understand that if they can give you a digital product that they can take away, or they can charge a little thing that happens once a month or subscription service or something, and they're not having to create this physical copies. It's just for a business, from a business standpoint, and with how servers are, they don't normally have to keep up full servers. They're usually using server farms and things like that. So it's cost-wise, it's way better for them. And then if they have a problem, they're like, oh, we have a problem with this limited edition skin. Somebody's suing us over that. Okay, just gone. But what about the people that bought it? Okay, well, we'll refund you, maybe, right? And so it's all freaking money is what it's coming down to. And again, like Scan said right off the bat, is like and like Wolf too, I like the physical. Once I have something and I pay for it once, I don't want to look, Nintendo don't play, but I don't like having to pay for Mario 64 5 times, and I've bought it 5 freaking times because Nintendo says, well, yes, you bought it for this other one, but you didn't buy the licensing to play it on this new modern hardware. And I'm like, why am I having to buy the same software when I've already bought your new hardware? I don't understand what you're doing here, but Nintendo knows they can do it, and enough people aren't up in arms like me with my freaking pitchfork that, saying this is not acceptable. And it's just like, and it's the way it's going to keep going if we just keep letting all this stuff just happen and we don't raise up and, start pushing more emulation on stuff and fighting back against some of that stuff. I hate to say it, but we have to kind of stand in the trenches. We're going to have to stand in the freeway because it's just going to keep rolling that direction. And Adam, I know he has experience seeing that whole backside stuff, and I know it scares him too.
It
Feel you
is.
on that, brother. With PlayStation, I don't know how many times I've bought Twisted Metal 2 and Twisted Metal Black, and even the latest one, I know it's an emulated version because I've already bought that emulated version on PS3. So it's not like it's the actual disc or the actual game that I bought back in the mid to late 90s. In fact, they changed the game. Like they changed how you pick up health and how the health even looks in the one I just bought as opposed to the physical copy I had. So
Really?
yeah.
So there's the stark differences in the physical versus digital copies?
Yeah, so and I know you had a point to get on. I didn't mean to like interrupt or so whatever, but like say like in Twisted Metal 2 on the original disc, the CD, the health pickups were blue squares with the like red cross, like just red on it and stuff like that. And the new one that they just put out earlier this year, when the Twisted Metal series came out, they put out you can get Twisted Metal 1 and 2 together as a copy or whatever and stuff. It was a PS4 and a PS5 version. It was upgraded 1080p, all this stuff or whatever.
Oh,
The
remaster.
Yeah.
remat, I guess to some degree. But the actual health pickups now have a red heart in the middle. There's not even a cross. It's just a red heart inside of a blue box. So they completely changed
For
how the
them to
health is.
for them to do that, because that's effort, that's development time.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody has to
Oh, yeah.
change the model. So that means somebody got itchy about the red. Is that like American Red Cross? Somebody owned that copyright. We don't need to go down that rabbit
No.
hole. But for them to pick up the mouse and actually make that effort, there had to have been a reason. I hope, because why would you just? Because you can
On a 24-year-old game.
Yeah,
On a
like,
24-year-old game, why would you change?
why wouldn't you just wholesale those game assets, import them into the new engine, and then turn up the textures a minute, and then go, look, it's cool. But
Yeah.
no, they're gonna go in and change like one little
Actually,
thing.
yeah.
That's odd. That's
Yeah.
really. But I mean, yeah. I mean, and going back to what Dan was saying, like part of the appeal to me with the PC side of things, why I abandoned consoles so early, like I played NES and I played Genesis for like 5 minutes and then I was done. It was PC all the way, is because it gave me the power to do what I needed to do with my games. Oh, they have an idea about something not working? Well, guess what? I can make it work or do a different thing or whatever, circumvent some of these issues that arise from copy protection and whatever else it may be. And that was part of the allure to it. There was a power there, and that was like, wow, like I can put the power back in my hands a little bit, because on consoles, unless you, I mean, there's definitely a modding scene there, but your hands are tied a lot tighter, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, just to kind of piggyback on what Will said, that's scary shit, right? Because you're proving the point that even games that we remember and as nostalgic as kids, if it goes digital, they could decide, you know what? We don't like this level. We're going to get rid of that bonus level that you remember growing up, or you're not going to be able to do this and that, and we're going to cut some corners here, and boom, that's gone. And you don't really own the game, right? I mean, so if you have a digital copy, yeah, you could play the game, but the people that actually own the game could decide when they want to wipe it. And then what? Then you're just standing there holding your dick in your hands.
Well, go ahead.
I'm surprised we haven't seen a more Disneyification of things too, where the re-releases are missing the gore, or they're missing the controversial humor, or elements of the game that just wouldn't pass muster these days. I'm
so
shocked we
true.
haven't seen a lot of that start to happen. I'm sure we will. I'm just surprised it's taken this long.
I'm actually glad you brought that up too, Dan. Honestly, I'll watch a rerun of a movie on TV lately that came out like in the 90s or something, and I'm kind of shocked that they still even leave parts of the movie in on TV. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's no different in the video game world. But you notice that they are cutting certain things out of movies that they don't want you to see. That was totally fair game when the movie was made. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's the way it was done when it was made. And if they start doing that to games, that would be ridiculous. Good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
I think they started doing that way back, even on arcade. I'm going to go back to arcade. When they went back and they did, what was it? Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I want to say, or is it Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition? They actually designed that board to nuke itself. I'm not exaggerating. Do you guys know the story?
No.
So they designed the board so that it has one of those what is it, the R32 disc batteries. They designed
Like a
the board that
$2032.
if that battery goes dead, the board's done. Like if you don't have power to those boards, it will kill the board. You can't put in a battery in and then it'll work again. No, it'll actually, once it goes dead, it does something with the board where it can no longer read the hardware correctly.
Breaks the board, huh?
Yep.
Like it breaks the PCB.
I just Googled it real quick because I
Yep.
haven't heard of this, and I love this. They're in the community. It's called CPS2 suicide.
Yep.
And if the battery dies, it physically alters the board and it takes out it's because there's a proximity. If the battery kind of blows up, it takes out a chip right next to it.
Yep.
And that chip is unique.
I wonder if I've actually wondered if this is possible. And Bauer, you probably could speak to this, but many times I've just loathed going into BIOS settings and resetting everything the way, like the boot sequence and all the things to make a game run properly, like my Tokyo Drift, for example, to the point where I literally wanted to see if I could figure out a way to continuously hook up low voltage to the battery spot while I switch one out and pop a new one in so that it goes, you know what I mean? Like,
you have to do that with those boards. There are physical like soldered in adapters that you can put on one of those boards that you can actually dual battery it. So you put one battery in as you pull the other battery out, and so you end up swapping
I love
back
stuff
and
like
forth.
that.
It's wild. Like, so they started with this copyright stuff back in the day. So just think about it though. If us in the community, and somebody in the community, it doesn't have to be us or royal we, right? If we didn't figure that stuff out back in the day, all of those versions of Street Fighter, the Street Fighter Championship Edition, would be gone, like just nuked. And they did that on purpose. It wasn't like, oops, we made a little mistake. They planned that stuff. So that's the thing. Was it nefarious? Like they just wanted those arcades to just eventually go, or if they wanted to resell another CPS2 board to the person. I don't know. But that's the stuff that scares me too, is because they've been messing with that kind of thing for a while, even with hardware, not just with the software stuff. So, and like for instance, like Mortal Kombat. I love the Mortal Kombat Plus, right? Mortal Kombat 2 Plus. Let's go with that. Mortal Kombat 2 Plus is freaking awesome. But there are times when I want to go back and play original Mortal Kombat 2 on an arcade machine. So what if everybody upgraded to Plus? You can't find it anymore. Like that's just me. I get it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of plus positives, but I mean, like, I want to remember what it was like. I don't want to be like, oh, I know that if I start this combo here, there's going to be a break that I have to pause here. But in Plus, they get rid of that. Like, I want that level of detail that I can go, that I remember when I was, like 7, 8 years old. It's probably more like
the Plus stuff. I was actually really excited about that when they started doing it. I was all on board with it. The only thing is I'm pretty sure the Plus stuff on the actual PCBs is just swapping out EEPROM chips to turn it into a Plus. So if you keep what you have, even if you lose it, you can still buy reburned or newly reburned EEPROM chips. But I waited until I had an emulated version of Plus so I could play that stuff. And that's where I think emulation is kind of a saving grace in this category, because even if these things become obsolete, every PCB board in the world ends up going bad. It's 100 years down the road from now. I don't know, maybe whatever the time frame is. Emulation's not going anywhere. So I get it. Like some of those arcade purists really piss on emulation. Like the whole thing with, what's his name, Billy from Donkey Kong or whatever. Like he was trying to take the world record with an emulated version. But I don't care what anyone says. When you're playing an emulated version of a game, the average Joe, I feel like you really, really have to know what you're looking for to know if it's emulated. It's pretty much just a carbon copy of it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought that up, because this is one of those things we were talking about earlier where it's a really sad, depressing fact about the community, about the CPS2 suicide. I implore people, if they think that's interesting, Google it, because there's a bunch of results about how CPS2 was designed to kill itself. I did not know that. Anyway, but yeah, that's great. That's why I love doing this with you guys, because it just learns so much. But also what I was trying to say was it's that balance, and all of a sudden you bring balance back to the force, because there's bad emulation, there's good emulation, and now we have this thing on the horizon with field programmable gate array chips, FPGA. That's your Mr. board. So this is emulation on a hardware level. So the chip reprograms itself to hardware emulate the actual CPU that was in a CPS-1, a CPS-2, or even older, an 8086 or whatever the heck was in Pac-Man and all that stuff. So instead of serialized emulation where instructions are in happening in order, and this thing is parallel processing just like it was on the original board, and your timings, your instructions, your sound, your inputs, there's no latency because the software thinks it's on the original physical hardware, and no one, not even Billy Mitchell and all of his drama, the kids that are after him, could figure out on a Mr. FPGA connected to an actual old CRT or original hardware side by side. I would definitely love to see that Pepsi challenge in the community at one of these because I bet
now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody could do it. I think as long as they're setting up the Mr. FPGA correctly, that would be a really hard thing for people to pick out. And on already software-based emulations, pretty darn good if you do it right. So again, the community rose up and they used an existing technology and went, hey, what if we like emulated in hardware instead of software? And I just find that fascinating. And I can't wait to try it myself.
Dude, you know, to speak to that, it's like, since I started kind of, you know, making YouTube videos and stuff years back and like getting into the whole like documenting what I'm doing with like my arcade stuff. I never did that back in the day. I wish I did. But it never fails. It doesn't matter how well done anything like this is. There is guaranteed a neckbeard out there that is going to find that one fault. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Neckbeard.
Here's the great part. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like, you can say, hey, you got an opinion, that's great. But someone's always going to bitch, and that's just, you learn that real quick in this whole online world, YouTube world, whatever.
Sure.
I gotta grab my bottle, though. I'm going to pour me a shot. I forgot to bring it with me.
Nice.
I got you in my headset, gang.
Yeah, so Larson, I like you bring up an arcade like a kill switch and stuff like that for a game and stuff. I can even flip that into not so much modern consoles, but for me as a PS3 owner and stuff, I love the fact that the PS3 was backwards compatible where you could do 1 and 2 with it. So I absolutely loved the PlayStation 3. Played it forever and everything was fine. And then they started coming out the newer models, the Slims and all that stuff, and those models were not backwards compatible. And I was like, well, that sucks. Why would you go back? I guess you're making them slim and you're losing the ability or the parts to make it do it or whatever. And so I was like, I'm just damn glad I have a Gen 1 that is backwards compatible, and I went about my day. Well, then I don't want to say it was on purpose, but I kind of feel the same way because it seemed to happen to a lot of my friends that had Gen 1 PlayStation 3s. They all got the yellow light of death where it just bricked the machine. Like it stopped working. Whoa. I mean, I had a game inside it and I couldn't even get it out. It wouldn't even power on or anything. So I go and get my PS3 sent in and everything, and they send me back a refurbished, Gen 1, because I was like, I don't want a new one because, cheers, mates. I don't want to lose my backwards compatibility ability. And so they sent me a new one and it worked, and it worked for about 2 more weeks. Then the same damn thing happened again. Ooh. And after that, they just said, hey, we'll send you a voucher. You're just going to have to get a new one and stuff. And they did that to every single person. And so then after that, all your Gen 1s were gone. And magically, you just lost the ability to be backwards compatible and play any of your old systems again. And so I want to say Sony has already been accused of it and they've denied it repeatedly. But I swear they put some kind of ticker or a countdown clock inside their software. They built it into it to when it reached a certain amount of time or hours played or something, your machine was going to brick, and it was going to force you to get a new one that was now all of a sudden there are new ones that are only available now. You couldn't even get Gen 1s anymore, were not backwards compatible. And I just thought that was really shitty.
We're going to run into that even more with newer consoles. I know you guys hate me to say it, but they are just PCs. Newer consoles are just standardized PCs. So right. Really they are. They're a standardized PC that they can develop for, and everybody has the same stuff, right? So it makes it easy for developers to develop for because they know what they're getting, right? You know you're going to McDonald's to get a hamburger. You know what you're getting. Same thing. You're building something for PlayStation. You know what you're getting. So it's going to be worse for the newer consoles down the road because there's more bells and whistles, more things to fail on them. Whereas like we have Super Nintendos that you can like legit almost drop it off of a second story building and they'll still work.
Yeah.
Or you and me with our old 8-bit Nintendo still kicking strong after.
That's what I'm talking about. Like the more bells
Yeah.
and whistles they put into it, the more stuff that's going to break. And I think yes, it's great for additional graphics and additional abilities and all that kind of stuff that the console itself can do. But is it getting to the point to where like, all right, are we just gonna? It seems like consoles are getting to that point to where again, like Adam says too, is that they are just standardized PCs. Now, PCs, the way the market goes, right, there's so much development that happens for it so fast. But consoles, they expect them to last, be on the market for 4 or 5 years, right? So they built the best PC that they can cost-wise at that point. But then after a year or two, PC's already kind of starting to push what that console can do. So, but again, more stuff can break. A PC, you just plan on getting rid of, right, and just building another one. But a console, for me, I expect to buy it one time and be able to go back in 20 years and play it again. And the newer consoles, I fear, are it's going to go the way of the dodo because sooner or later they're going to do what happened to you, Wales, is the first gen PlayStation 3 is just gone, right? So it's just it starts to make me get all nervous, right? Because once I buy something, I want to be able to enjoy it for my whole life. I take care of my crap. I want to be able to enjoy it. But there's so many things that's not profitable for a company.
If you take care of your stuff, like I said, my 8-bit Nintendo, my Sega Genesis is still rocking and gets the job done. But
That's incredible.
I've been through 2 different PlayStation 3s. I never got a 4 just because life got in the way. But I mean, now that I've got a 5, it makes me wonder: is it on a ticking time bomb at some point?
I just want to speak to that real quick. I have the original. I was in line day one for the PS3, the 80 gigabyte, which is the version you're talking about, which is backwards compatible.
I got it.
Hundreds of hours I've put in, and it's still where I still turn it on. I play Puppeteer. Me and my older son, we just beat it like within the past few months again. So it's amazing, right? Like, so obviously I don't want to say it debunks what you're saying because I believe you, Wales. I think I'm the anomaly. I think more people have gotten that yellow death, than not.
Okay, so you were there for launch day, and that launched in what, November? I want to say October or something. I don't know what year, but I want to say it was late. It was later in the year of its release, correct?
Yep.
Christmas.
I want to say
it was just before
it was
Christmas. Yeah, it was before Christmas.
So I didn't get my PlayStation 3 until April later on of that next year after it had been released. So I probably got it was still Gen 1, but it was about 5 or 6 months after the initial release. So who knows what goes on, but I'm very happy that yours is still working because I mean, luckily I still have my PlayStation 2, my original PlayStation 2 that got me through college, still kicking it, and that's how I enjoy my physical PlayStation 2 and 1 games because of its backwards compatibility.
Here's my hint to anybody else, all 5 of you that are watching this in the future. So here's my hint because I do modify and clean and refurbish consoles. I just do. I take care of my stuff that way. Newer consoles, older consoles, doesn't make a difference. Watch some YouTube videos, watch something where you can actually, there's easy ways to open them up safely and clean them out because you want to know what console killers are. It's freaking dust and heat. So there are lots of things that you can do. For instance, I'm going to help you, somebody out there right now. Original Xbox, OG Xbox. The way that you will lose your Xbox and your board will freaking fry is the clock. There's a capacitor that runs the clock only. Do a research on that because if you haven't fired it up in a while, that capacitor has gone bad. I am almost 100% sure that it's already started to leak. So it'll leak, and it'll leak for a while until all of a sudden it will fry your board. So here's your hint. And that's just an example for Xbox. You can do lots of other research on these things, but there's quick and easy fixes on a lot of this stuff. So like for Wolf in particular, like that first gen PlayStation 3, the first thing I think about is getting in there, opening the case up, and at least cleaning it out to a certain extent. Not really modifying too many things. I'm not saying that. But just to keep this stuff working better, just like my console or my arcade machines, take the time to, yes, you're going to have to clean it, but if you want it to stay and maintain and be around for a long time, just like anything else, you got to get in there and you got to clean some of that hardware out. That electronics need that. So just there, my soapbox really quick, but I like hardware. I want your stuff to last, and that's my suggestion. All right, I'm done.
Don't be afraid. Canned air is your best friend.
Not vacuums.
Not
Don't
vacuums.
use vacuums.
No, nobody
Canned
would
air.
ever vacuum any of their stuff ever.
Electronics.
What a dumbass.
Oh, I'm sorry, Wales, but it's just low-hanging fruit at this point. But I guess I'll be the silver lining guy tonight. So back to consoles and how modern consoles are just shit PCs and plastic boxes. That's got a silver lining. Because if everything on an x86 or 64-bit instruction set is literally a PC, that leads to fun things like we already have a functional PS4 emulator. Lickety split, because all it is a damn computer running computer games with weird encryption. And weird encryption, you know how the community is, challenge accepted. And obviously they already got it figured out. And we know how Sony's security has been. I don't know if you guys follow cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah.
On breach
2012
third,
PTSD.
inside of like 3 weeks. So and not to mention the one that was catastrophic 10 years ago or whatever that was. So anyway,
Yeah, that was the 2012.
Yeah, that brought down the online services that then disappeared games en masse and all that stuff.
And everybody's personal credit card stuff. Hey,
Yep.
free.
Oh no, yeah, that's totally secure. But here, have this identity protection for free because that's fine. It's just cautionary. But anyway, to close the loop on PS3, me not being a console guy, I just wanted to share my experience with it. In my previous home, I built this really nice home theater. Rewind 10 years ago, if you can remember, Blu-rays, they were kind of hard to do well. Well, the PS3 was the most cost-effective, awesomest Blu-ray player.
Half price.
I bought one, and I ended up with a Slim. And the only 2 games I got it was, what was that? Rayman?
Rayman?
No, there was that really sad game where you played, anyway, there was a really sad, really good game where it's like Risk of Rain or something like that, and then GTA 5. It was the only 2 games I had for the thing. Otherwise, all it was a Blu-ray player for me. Fast forward a couple of years, and I learned about the PS3 backwards compatibility because I had no idea, and I knew that it ran Linux, but I didn't know it was PS1, PS2, PS3 backward compatible. I got rid of my PS3 Slim. I found a local, basically there's a guy out downtown Milwaukee running a GameStop type operation. Got to know him. I traded my PS3 Slim to him and some cash, of course, for a backwards compatible model. So I have that, but I've left it unplugged. I only fired it up once to test. What was it? I bought Time Crisis, and I was trying to get light guns to work using something. I forget. But anyway, that was the one time I fired it up. Otherwise, it's been unplugged for probably 4 or 5 years at this point.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because I actually have. I used to have like a PS2 and stuff like that. When I got the PS3, I specifically got the PS3 that was backwards compatible. I can't remember what you say it was, Wolf. 80 gigs.
80 gigs. It's like a fat model.
Yeah,
it had to be 80
rounded
gigabytes.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
So I got that fucking heifer, and it's backwards compatible. So I had PS1 and 2 games. And like I said, never been a huge console guy, but I definitely played them. And it was kind of in this like limbo between me starting to acquire arcade games, which is what I really wanted. This is back when I was like, late teens, early 20s. And so when I got that PS3, I'm like, okay, got rid of my PS2. I'm backwards compatible. I got games, PS1, 2, and 3 games, all can be played on one console. So now I've been fighting the PS5 because I really don't want to buy one, but there are some games I want to play. So I'm going to get one. I've actually kind of been looking into get one here recently. And the PS5 disc version is also backwards compatible with your PS4. So you only really need at this point the PS3 and the PS5 that are backwards compatible with all games. I can get rid of my PS4. So then it begs the question, does it begin to make those systems that came out in between them more obsolete because they're not going to be needed as much if you're buying things that are backwards compatible? So
Well, here
I
pretty
don't know.
soon, like
I
we
guess
talked about earlier with the digital, it's not going to be backwards compatible. You'll just be able to get whatever game you want off the store on your system. It's just what do they have it configured for? Is it configured for PlayStation 4? Is it configured for PlayStation 5 or up in the future and stuff? Or, they
right.
make the older games and stuff. So I'd still rather have the physical copy just because that's me and that's what I've grown up having. But I mean, as we alluded to earlier, there's at the beginning of the show is just everything's switching to digital. And I don't like the aspect of basically having a system that you could essentially not have games for anymore. You can sit there and get the biggest gigabyte storage thing and then add an internal storage system, which I've done for my PS5 and stuff. But at the back of my mind, as much space and free stuff that I have, I'm still scared to death about buying digital games because they take up so much space. And I feel like I am going to be limited on how many games I can buy, or if there's another game that I want to get and it's only digital copy and say I'm maxed out on space, I'm literally going to have to delete a game to put in on a new game.
And what if
And I
licensing
don't like
goes
that.
away? What if licensing
Yeah.
goes away on that game and it's not on the store anymore and you can't re-download it, or your hard drive goes bad and you can't download any of those digital games that you purchased? That
Exactly.
all of that stuff
Yeah.
drives me nuts. Like that stuff that stuff scares me to death.
Mm-mm.
And then just like going back on preservation with arcades, I'm touching on Scan again, not touching him, but you know what I'm saying, touching on what he was talking about when we talk about arcades
You
and
can touch on me.
him being back in the day. Like there are prototype games that came out like Primal Rage 2 and all that kind of stuff that are super super rare. Like and if we don't have emulation and preservation and all that stuff, those are just going to disappear, right? So like
Yep.
thank goodness for Galloping Ghost, which I'm excited I'm going to be at in the near future, all of us. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Same
But
thing with Tattoo Assassins.
oh dude,
That's
yeah,
another one.
right? I mean, like there's all these war gods, stuff like that, where they biofreaks that they made like what was that
Yep.
one football game that you had, Adam? That was like a prototype. They made like 3 of them. The trackball, or no, it wasn't a foot. Oh yeah, no, the
it's,
power,
the
the
baseball.
power up
Baseball.
The
Power
power up
something.
baseball, but also my favorite that like only exists in 2 places in the whole world is the Beavis and Butthead arcade.
I was just fixing to say Beavis and Butthead.
Ooh, where's that at? Is it one at
Galloping Ghost is the only one I
Oh,
know,
yeah.
but I've heard there's another one in a private collection. That's it.
Yes. I've
Whoa.
seen pictures of it.
I wonder
going
what
to say-
that goes for, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got you can't even put a number on it because
Right.
like maybe there's 2 in the world, not one for sure. That's it.
You only need 1 kidney or 1 testicle. I mean, I'm just saying.
And if
Here's
you
another.
believe the
B, if I
internet,
can
there's a
find
bunch
a
of
site
forums
B.
that says Doc Mack rightfully backed up the ROMs, but he won't release it for MAME just because from a preservation perspective. So at least he's got a copy of it if it decides to suicide board or whatever.
Jeez.
This also speaks to having a physical copy, quote unquote, of something that is no longer being manufactured. Like these arcade games are treasures. Like they're almost currency at this point. They're only going up in value, and it's a physical machine that you own. It's something tangible. So you're not going to have that with digital games, period. Like it can't, I don't see personally how it could happen, but I honestly just miss the days where you got a cabinet and you got a PCB and a power supply and a monitor, and that's pretty much what the whole thing consisted of. Then you start mixing in things like, I'm not sure what the guts of the Hydro Thunders look like, but I mean, in the Tokyo Drift, you got a PCB, but then they started adding things like watchdog systems, and then they run on Dell computers with other PCBs. You know what I mean? It's like, how long are you going to be able to find like the Dell motherboards that you need? Because I actually just had to replace one in mine last year. And yeah, right now you can buy it from some dude on eBay who's sitting on 60 of them, but at some point you're not going to be able to buy a new Mobo for that machine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They talk about, machines going up in cost. I mean, I know this isn't arcade, but pinballs are the same way. Pinballs used to not be super, I mean, they weren't cheap, but I mean, they weren't astronomically high. And then now since COVID, I mean, you're looking at pinball machines that are 15, 20 plus $1,000. And it's just like, with especially those older ones, like you're saying, Scan, how many more places are you going to find these old parts, these old solenoids, the bumpers, the bands, stuff like that to make those function? You have to have those.
Oh, I mean, just for example, like I just remember when I was like in my early 20s, like my bookmarks on my piece of shit computer that I had, like in my bedroom when I was like looking for stuff on eBay, like my bookmarks were all bookmarked to take me right to eBay, right to the places like just searching for MK stuff, just searching for like War Gods. I really wanted a War Gods cabinet. I was on the cusp of getting one time, and then I lost out on it somehow or another. I didn't get it, but the fact that I could get something like that back in those days, we're talking 20 years ago, they were far more abundant. When you were looking for something like that, they were literally all over the place. And now when you go on eBay, you're going to find your onesie, twosie type cabinets that someone's selling, but it's not going to be near as much. And then, well, it won't be near as abundant as far as product goes, but like the price has gone up, 4 or 5x at least. I could get a Midway cabinet with MK 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, Killer Instinct, and I could get them for $400, $500. Now, I mean,
1,200.
a Killer Instinct. Yeah. Oh,
Easy.
That's even on the lower side. Yeah. Like some of the, like a Killer Instinct 2 is probably going to be $2,500, something like that, $2,000.
Jeez.
Yep.
That's crazy.
And,
Yeah.
and just so you know, Hydro Thunder, it's mostly PC. So it
Is
doesn't have hardly any EPROMs or any of that stuff. It's all PC and hard drives. So
Yeah.
And you can still, like you said, I had a hard drive go bad. All right, I'm gonna nerd out a little bit on Hydro Thunder. So I had a hard drive go bad, but my 2 other Hydro Thunders, I had the upgraded, because there were upgraded kits. There were upgrade kits for Hydro Thunder that got it to run better, and there was a few other things that it did. I think it unlocked like the extra track and stuff like that. So
There's different versions.
Yep. So
Was
you
it
needed
different
to have
versions?
the upgraded version. So you couldn't
Yeah.
just buy some random one. So what I did was I bought a solid state hard drive with the
Yep.
adapter that had the upgraded, so then they would all see each other. But see, that's what I'm talking about, like preservation and stuff. There's it's not just finding like these, especially the ones that network together. It's not just finding the one, but if they had upgrades, like I got floppy disks. The upgrade kits for those were floppy disks. Inside the PC, inside the Hydro Thunders, actually have a drive, a floppy disk drive.
Jeez.
You gotta
That's
lock
crazy.
it down to get it.
Yeah, you got to slide it in, and it's just because it's just a PC tower in the back of it.
Yep.
Yeah, there's power, and
Okay.
there's all these there's all like the sound boards and the pentometers and the force feedback and all that kind of stuff boards. But the actual like game boards, it's not a game board. It's an actual
Right.
PC.
So
It
why
is a
can't we
PC.
emulate that? I haven't looked into this because this is I'm assuming this is the same system that does Arctic Thunder, Hydro Thunder, and then there's like a Monster Truck Madness or something. I know
Yeah.
there's 3. Like, because the only reason I know about these games is there was a really good PS2 or PS1 release, the Midway Treasures, and all
Yep.
3 of them are on there, and that's like one of the ways to play this stuff. But I assume they all run on the same computer. So what?
I would imagine. I don't know. Maybe just somebody's never taken the time to throw it up
Yeah,
there.
that's what
because
I
they haven't
think.
cared. They
They're-
haven't cared enough. I mean, like
They're dumped for sure. It's just why the heck hasn't made. Well, I
It's-
don't want to go down.
Yes,
that, but MAME needs to figure it out.
it's such a popular game. Hydro Thunder is like I love that game, and
Yeah.
I melted the PC version in my Megacade. But and remember, Larson and I were going back and forth. I was like, man, I think I was talking some shit. Like, dude, I'll give anyone, whatever, $20 if they can beat my highest score. You're like, you better be careful, bro. I got freebies in my garage.
And I couldn't beat
But-
it. I couldn't beat your your PC version. I could not beat the time. I couldn't.
Oh wow!
However-
Yeah, because
However,
I'm fucking dude. I'm Billy Mitchell that motherfucker. That's why
I
did
do
that.
have to I do have to say this.
yeah.
Yes, I could not beat your time. 100%. I could not beat your PC time. However, you get us all together like we were at the Pinball
Yeah,
Hall of Fame,
Pinball Hall,
and when you
yep.
get us on actual the cabinets.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
You'll
let you
smoke
know.
us.
Remember, I did
Yeah.
6 races and did not lose. So
Not
there's-
not only did he win by a substantially large amount
I'm just
of
saying,
time.
like I can't hang with your time scan. I just can't. I'll flat out tell everybody I cannot beat his time. Can't do it. But you get me on some hardware, and my girls give me a run for my money, and so I would put them up there too. So it's
Dude, when I
awesome.
was
Yeah, using their
when I
feet
was
to
going
steer
for that
too.
time,
God, they get style points.
my my son and I were playing that game, and it became like a true competition. So like I would come home and he would have the Megacade on playing Hydro Thunder. Like he had to beat my score. So he would beat it and then I would beat his, and back and forth to the point where I started Googling it and I'm like, I don't know if this score is beatable. Like I couldn't find anyone that could beat that score that I established, dude, on that PC
Wow.
version.
Yep.
It was
It's
I don't
amazing.
know, it was fun.
That's
Yeah.
an amazing score. And you know what you need, Scan? Now you have all that extra space there. You don't have any extra space, but that's
No.
gotta be Holy Grail style. You got to get a couple of actual Hydro Thunder machines. They're not super expensive. They're good. You can find good ones, and you got to
Oh,
link
yeah.
them up just right next to your Tokyo Drifts.
One day when I got plans to have one more house, and in that next house it's going to have a bigger game room that won't be on the opposite side of my master bedroom wall. And I plan on having at least a pair of Hydro Thunders. I have almost pulled the trigger on Hydro Thunder so many times. I wanted one in my basement in Michigan so bad, but like, you know, I didn't have as much money back then. I was spending every extra dime I had on arcade games. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
but yeah, I forgot where we were even going with that, man. Yeah, this
Preservation.
Stuff takes off. We're
Preservation.
preserving it.
Uh-huh.
Preserving it.
Adam, should I bring one of the hard drives with me when we meet up?
I mean, the dumps exist. That's not the
Oh,
problem. It's
okay.
the emulation. It's just fine. Let's go there. MAME, the people, as far as I can tell, I'm not an expert on the development of MAME, but from where I sit, the developers of MAME have this really weird perspective on what should get focused on and what shouldn't. Because every time you see a new MAME release, you get all excited. You're like, what's gonna be fixed now, and what's new? Oh, they emulated the chess board from 1972. Oh, and they emulated a calculator, literally, from the 80s. And you're like,
Where's my San Francisco Rush? Dude, figure
There's
it out.
Cruising Exotica. Site B,
Oh,
damn it.
Cruising
Site
Exotica.
B.
Good. Yeah.
the
Site.
name of the project is Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator. It's a calculator. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
We need
man.
to preserve that game, Adam, where you sell apples.
Okay, funny enough, that Apple II, it does run on MAME now. They have that in the last couple of months.
Oh
They
yeah?
strived, and they've got a lot more Apple II E and G and all the variants of Apple II running on there, and that's great. But
Yeah.
again, that's a damn computer, and I appreciate it. But arcade machine later, like Whale said, like Site 4 Area 51, Cruisin' Exotica, there Jurassic Park 3. There's just some basic early 2000s, late 90s stuff out there that's like, guys,
Why? Yeah.
And it
Why?
doesn't seem
like
they don't seem complicated either. Like Rush, I love San Francisco Rush. I love the shortcuts and all that stuff. And you look at it, and it plays great. But guess what? The road disappears. Okay, well fix that. Nope.
Fix the textures. Just
Dude, even
like
even
Exotica.
Le Mans,
Exotica boots up, and then you get to the starting line, and then there's no road.
even Le Mans is a piece of shit. Why?
Right? Oh, man.
I mean, these are games that you would think, these are like, we're not talking about some rare hidden thing that nobody wants to play. We're talking about games that are like beloved staples. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't get it. And then-
They're Midway games. I mean, everybody knows how Midway was just throwing out just absolute bangers in the 90s and
Yeah, oh,
2000s.
yeah.
Yep.
And
It's just
from where I sit, the encryption isn't on Mount Everest. The game's dumped. The emulation from a software perspective is not hard. So can we just get a smart person for 10 minutes to like,
Yes. I nominate Arcade Adam.
I'm not a programmer, dude. You don't want me in there.
Dilly-dilly.
So let's touch on real quick the elephant in the room when it comes to disappearing software. A perfect example is what's about to happen. Nintendo's about to drop their eShop for 3DS and was it Wii U? there
Yeah.
are, and it's already happened on other with the Wii store shutting down and stuff. What happens to those games that were only available on the eShop? What what happens? Like,
Yeah.
do you guys know what I mean? They just disappear into the ether, only to be sold to us in a bastardized version in 3 years on another Nintendo console?
Bastardized.
Exactly what happens.
And that's going to become more and more common. Like Muscle March,
Weird.
that gem is not
I was
available
going to bring
anymore,
that up.
right?
A gem.
That gem. By the way, I have to say, any of you that are watching this, make sure you check out Scantron 5K. There is a video that he actually played that game with his Wiimotes, and it's freaking hilarious. Check out his YouTube page.
It
Anyway,
is.
Easily top 5 live stream moment.
yes,
You gotta see it.
that
I
is
was
Space Channel 5.
crying.
That yeah.
Space
I
Channel.
haven't even watched it back one time. Should I look at that?
So good. You should bust it out again. But
That
anyways,
goes up there with Last Joe.
that yeah, oh my gosh.
Fuck's sake. Yeah.
So Wolf, what
Actually,
you got on
that game could just fade into oblivion.
That game can go dusted. Okay.
What was that, Larson?
What do you got, Wolf, on that? Because I mean, that I know is near and dear to your heart. And then Adam also with like stuff disappearing and servers when it comes to that kind of stuff too. Can you guys tell us what you're thinking on that? Like, what
Yeah.
does that do to your heart when you're hearing about it?
Well, I'll tell you, it breaks. And there's a YouTuber, I forget what his name is, Gerard. I forget what his he's got like a beard and he's very famous. But anyway, he went into the 3DS store and he wanted to see how much money it would take to buy every single one of the eShop games and put it on an SSD drive and have it forever. And I forget what the total was. I think it was like just shy of like $15,000 or something, or $16,000. But he did. He bought every single game. He downloaded it from his 3DS machine, and then he put it on a computer, which then went on an SSD, and he now owns every single one of the games that they're going to get rid of. And I agree with you, Dan. I mean, that just seems like it's going to be more of the norm than it is an anomaly. And that scares me as a gamer, who, if I like a game and it only came out, like there's a Castlevania game that came out on the Wii or Wii U shop. I forget what it's called, Castlevania something, Recollection or something. It's a remaster of a Game Boy game, but you could only get it if you download it. That's going to be gone soon. So unless you could find it somehow through emulation, you'll never play that game again, and people will miss out on it. And it's a damn crying shame, man. I do not like the future. The future is bleak for
and we're
people like
lazy.
me.
We're lazy as a society, and they know it. They know we want the convenience. Oh, I see this game. Let me just buy it, immediately download it. I don't have to get in my car, drive to the store, and buy it. So, and they know, for the convenience, we're still going to charge you the same because we got to maintain servers. But for the convenience, we're going to charge you the same. But you can play it right now. Look here, take. That's not.
Weird
That's
thing.
not
Well,
what you want.
we live in a world of instant gratification right now. Matter of fact, people have zero patience for shit anymore.
Right.
And
God.
yeah,
It's just like Ticketmaster. Go ahead.
it takes people like that dude you were just saying who went into the eShop and bought every single game to actually preserve the game. You know what I mean? Like at some point when it goes away, somebody like him is going to pop out and they're going to have all the stuff and they're going to have all the games. They're going to keep it alive,
Yep.
I wonder
I'm
how
curious
often
if
that
somebody
happens.
did
Like, how many people have fuck you money and just buy the whole damn thing because it's coming?
Whole library.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were they charging on the shop, Lars? They're charging like roughly the same price as it was like launch day for these games. and
Usually.
stuff? So
Unless you
so
put a
15
sale.
to 16,000, as Wolf says, was pretty accurate, as if you had bought every single game when it was released.
But
Then it's
no, it might have just been the ones that were e-store only. Was that what it was, Wolf? It was the ones that never had a physical release. It was just e-store releases,
Oh.
correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Its name is
Oh, so this
Gerard
didn't
the
include physical.
Completionist. I just remembered. Gerard the Completionist. His shtick is has a YouTube channel and he plays games, but he has to 100% them. He's got to get every achievement and stuff. And some of the games that he's done that for is amazing. But
Yikes.
I watched that episode and it is just fascinating. And I'll tell you, if I had the money, I would have done the same thing. I would have took the time. And he had people working for him around the clock who they bought, like, I want to say 15 3DSs, and each of them, he put money in each of their accounts, exactly, Adam, and all 15 of those were downloading different games. Otherwise, he would still be doing it. It would be impossible. You can't do it on one machine.
Yeah.
Well, 3DS is what? How old is it? It's like 12, 13 years?
Yeah. Yep.
Damn.
Jeez.
Crazy.
Knowledge bombs, Wolf. I love it. I looked at this guy's wiki page. He's an interesting character.
Yeah.
Look him up. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, I don't want to backtrack much, but I remember Bauer saying a few minutes ago, what was it, Midway Arcade Treasures that we were talking about?
Yep.
And that was for PS2, correct me if I'm wrong,
I
right?
think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I swear to God, so again, this whole topic is a double-edged sword because, yeah, technology makes things easier, more convenient, cooler, simpler, but also it takes away from the actual, like, physicality of the whole thing. But when I used to play Mortal Kombat 2 on Midway Arcade Treasures, every time I turned it on, it pissed me off when it was going through, like, the attract mode screen. And the reason why is because on the sides of the screen, it would go down and it would cut off on one side and go over like there was a glitch. And it drove me nuts until I bought my OG Mortal Kombat 2 cabinet. And I was messing around with the horizontal positioning of my CRT screen one day. And I zipped it over to the right and back over to the left. And when I zipped it over, the actual arcade ROM, because the screen is meant to fit within the bezel on your arcade machine. So if you slid it over, you saw that side go down and it notched over and went down like that. And I was like, motherfucker, this emulation shit might actually be the ticket because it was exact. And I'm like thinking, it pissed me off when I was playing something like that eons ago. And then I get the OG machine. I'm like, I'll be damned. It actually really is that way. I just didn't know it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's a cool thing. Interesting story.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
weird.
I mean, it's a stupid thing to have noticed and irritated me. But like, I wanted symmetry, and I'm like, why the fuck is it? Why does it look like that? But it's cool to think that emulation is able to kind of etch these games in stone and take them with us, even if one day there's not a single arcade cabinet that exists. Emulation is not to be slept on, man. I mean, it's preservation, really. It's preservation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember
I
that game
hate
day of
how-
Midway Arcade Treasures 2 scan because I got that one because it had MK2, MK3, Primal Rage,
Yep.
and like Rampage and stuff on it. So yeah, I know exactly
Yep.
what you're talking about.
And if you guys ever fire that up and play MK2, you'll know exactly what I mean. When the game starts up and it's going through the attract mode stuff, you'll see it. And I couldn't for the life of me understand how they didn't fix that before they ported that shit to a game. And I'm like, no, never mind. They didn't need to because that's the way God intended it. That's the way the devs made it, bro. You know?
Yep. And going back on what you said, Scan, I hate how, I don't know if it's still a thing, but it just seems like sometimes you come across in the online communities, there's true enthusiasts of real arcade machines and emulation is the devil. And then there's the emulation camp where it's like, there are their own breed of completionists where they need to get everything that's possible emulated and even more. And sometimes those communities butt heads, but they really just need to work together because eventually the true arcade enthusiasts, restoring vintage stuff is going to need the help of the emulation community to help bridge the gap on this hardware that won't exist anymore. So I'm hoping those two worlds start to collide, like especially with this FPGA, the Mr. project coming together. I think I hope that is what will happen, is the two communities rise up together, raise all, rise tide raises all boats kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of one of those guys back in the day. Like when MAME first became a thing. I mean, how long has it been around now? Around 20 years or so,
20 years.
Maine?
Give or
it's around
take.
2000.
So when I first started buying and collecting arcade games and, reselling or whatever, you know what I mean? I remember I went to go buy a lot. I was going to buy a lot of about 8 or 10 games. And I get there to pick them up, and the guy was like, so what are you going to do to him, man? You going to maim him out? And I was like, he said the word, and I was like, the fuck you mean maim him out? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know what he was talking about. And then I started looking into it, and I was like, oh man, this is Bush League. I was like, I don't want anything to do with this, man. These cabinets are going to stay the exact same way they are.
Right.
Because back in those days, nothing hurt my soul more than seeing like, an NBA Jam game stuffed into a freaking like Donkey Kong cabinet, like that was repurposed. Like that stuff drove me insane.
Yeah.
It was like my
Me
OCD
too.
couldn't understand it. You
Yeah,
know what I
same
mean?
thing with Mortal Kombat. You go play Mortal Kombat 2 and it's on a MK3 board and they just have the run taken out. There's just like a filler
Dude.
there. And it's like, dude, no, that's not supposed to be there.
The-
This isn't
Oh,
right.
Dude,
it
and
drove me
that's
nuts.
that's something that tears at my heart more than anything is imagine how many of our arcades that we had got the machines got destroyed. Like ones that
Destroyed.
you remember playing. Like
No.
back in, you could
No.
sit there and you have a memory of you sitting on a panel playing that machine. 9 times out of 10, that machine was either one totally crushed, just destroyed, thrown in a garbage heap, or it was tore apart and put into various different versions of things. And the worst thing is so EHA, Dream Home Arcades, they used to do that crap. They used to buy old arcade cabinets.
Oh wow!
And that's when they first started. They were modifying old arcade cabinets before they started CNCing all their stuff. So,
Thanks, Larson. I need to
Dude.
drink more.
yeah.
Dude, to speak to that, like I'm a huge advocate for emulation now, but I believe the way that companies like Extreme Home Arcades or whatever, Extreme Gaming Cabs or whoever builds them, whoever's in the furniture business, that's the way it needs to be done.
Yeah.
You build your own company's cabinet and you skin it out and you put a computer in there and you maim that fucker out and you do it that way. Back in the olden days, I say olden days, man, we are not old. We're not fucking old. So
seasoned.
when someone would take
Veterans.
a beautiful arcade cabinet and cheapen it by turning into a main cabinet, it drove me nuts. And back then, it wasn't even near what it is now. You might get like some of them are only like a dozen games or like 20 games or 50 games, and that's what you get. But like you would butcher some cabinet. But now I'm into it. If it's its own entity, if it's its own machine that was built to be a main machine, yes, of course, I'll be in line I'll have one for the rest of my life, guaranteed.
Don't kill an awesome looking Killer Instinct cab and make it into something stupider. It just the art on those machines, it's just a sin. That's all.
Oh,
the arcade
Face
community
it.
itself started doing that. They didn't get that idea from emulation because you had arcade kits, and then you artwork, put a crappy poster and a new marquee on top of it.
Tapper and Timber.
A new game, yeah, stuff like that.
Tapper and Timber, they were kind of doing that stuff. That's why, like finding an actual OG Tapper or an OG Timber, and specifically, Timber is the one that's worth more because it was an OG. You had an OG Tapper that had the legit, and the sticker wasn't full size. So another hint for you guys: if you ever see a Timber, that's how you can tell if it's an OG. Is you'll actually see around the edge there's like a 1/4 inch where you can actually see the wood grain from the old Tapper sticker behind it, because the Timber sticker was not full size on the cabinet. That's one of the telltales on finding an actual legit one. But
they didn't get that idea from emulation. They've been doing it for a while, and that
right.
It kind of makes me cringe. It doesn't really bother me because it's all original stuff being original. And then, Incredible Technologies, there's a new Golden Tee every year. It's kind of the same thing, yada, yada, yada. But it really hurts when, especially someone, unfortunately, is new into the emulation scene, takes a real cabinet and just starts drilling holes like, we're going to start. And then you end up with a piano-looking control panel. that original game is just gone.
Dude,
like
I've seen
so insane.
what's that is it X? What's the control panel? X Arcade or something that makes the control panel or
Tank
something?
stick. Yeah, X Arcade tank stick.
Yes, and I see people take like a beautiful OG Midway cabinet or something, and they do away with the play field, and they slap. It doesn't even look good. It looks like you're trying to fit 10 gallons of shit in a 5-gallon bucket, just like. And I'm like, God, how do you not know that looks stupid? Like, I get it. You got 1,000 games to play now, but that looks so stupid. You know what I mean?
And that's why, cost-wise with my cruising cabinets that I built, I know I could have bought old racing cabinets and bastardized them, but I didn't want to. Like, I don't want my hobby to interfere with preservationists because, like I said, I think these two communities really need to start getting together more. But yeah, it could have saved me some money, but I didn't want to tear apart those cabinets because I knew I wanted to play multiple games on my racing cabinets. I don't have the room for a whole bunch of cabinets.
Yeah.
Dude, so when I wanted 2 racing cabinets, I wanted them to be unique. I built the furniture myself and threw the guts inside there as well, and not something destroyed in creating something else new.
I love that you said that, man. We're both on the same page with that. I love the fact that you built your own racing cabs to make a racing emulated cab. You know what I mean? Like, just to have its own dedicated thing. You didn't butcher some cabinet to do it. Even though if you would have done it, no one would have hated you for it. You know what I mean? But
I would have hated myself.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even when I added the multi-JAMA switcher into my Midway cabinet for my MK2, I heavily debated on even drilling holes into the playfield to add the run button to play MK3 and 4. The only reason I ended up doing it is because I knew, I'm like, okay, all 4 of the OG games are going to be played in the cabinet that was supposed to be played, that it was supposed to be played on. And even though I'm going to modify an MK2 control panel, it's going to be for the greater good. Like, I'm not using emulated shit. I'm not using anything that's like some piss poor, bad example of what the machine should be used for. I don't know where I'm going with this, but you know what I'm saying? It kills me to drill those holes, but I was like, yeah.
Well,
yeah, because you're keeping all the Mortal Kombats within a Mortal Kombat cabinet that was designed for Mortal Kombat.
Exactly.
So you're keeping everything the same. It's not like you're putting it in there and then you're all of a sudden throwing in, like, say, Tekken Tag to make that button still be useful in the game and stuff. Mm-hmm. You're keeping it still the same to the OG boards with the OG cabinet with the OG
100%.
So you're keeping it true to the thing. And the same thing to Adam's point with his racing machines. You didn't destroy a cruising, cab and stuff to do your stuff. You actually built your own stuff, and then on top of that, got the art and skinned it as the original cruising and stuff. So that gives you extra bonus points, is because you didn't, take a San Francisco cabinet. You didn't take something else and then destroy it, or not destroy it, but modify it up, and then you just slapped on cruising art over
bastardize it. You can say it. Bastardize it.
You kept it the same. You built it, but you kept it the same, and you kind of paid homage to it and stuff, because we can all agree it's, at least for my opinion, at least, the Cruising series is top 5 racing games of all time ever made.
I kind of took shit. Sorry, man. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's it. Go for it. I'm done. I'll stop ranting.
I kind of took shit when I was when I first started making videos on the Megacade and stuff, because I think some people actually thought I was just like some Mr. Emulation type dude. Like, I only care, you know what I mean? And I remember going to Combat Con in 2017, and the conversation came up, and we were around a group of people, and somebody overheard it, and they're like, "Oh, I saw your video. I saw your video on YouTube, man." He's like, "Yeah, dude, like, how do you get away with that thing? Like, what, like, it's all emulated. Like, how you got the like, people are asking me questions about licensing and stuff. And I'm like, look, I don't fucking know. That's not I don't get into that. But that's why I started dropping, like, I made a video that I took a long time ago in my old place before I moved from Michigan down to Florida. And it was a video of all my OG cabs. And I released it and made it public on YouTube after I started making emulation videos on the Megacade, because I wanted to show people, like, hey, this is where I came from. This is why I'm here now. Yeah, I'm huge in preserving these things, and this is where it starts. You know what I mean? So even Main Fan, I think, commented on something when I posted some pictures of that, and he's like, "Oh shit, oh okay, like you're legit," you know what I mean? And I was like, "Yeah, like this is my background, dude." But
That
He's
it's
not.
funny, those two worlds, man. You know?
Well, the thing is that I remember is because you and I are very similar as far as the arcades wanting to really push you into emulation, like because you can't own all these arcade anymore, right? Space is just what it is.
You
I
can't.
was that way with consoles. I have too many consoles. Wolf knows about it. Trying to have 15, 16 consoles that you play regularly plugged into a switcher, and then I'm super anal, so I have to have all my controllers and stuff available and all my games laid out and alphabetized, and having just all that stuff out, I was like, and then all of a sudden it popped up, and I was like, oh, I can have all this on one machine. Don't get me wrong, I never thought I was gonna be like, oh, let me just get rid of these now. No, preservation always. Even people that know me, like friends and family that lives around me and stuff, if you're ever seeing an old video game system, they will always contact me, because not that I'm going to resell, I don't resell any of that stuff, but I will preserve it. That's the reason why I got like three regular Nintendos, two Super Nintendos. I mean, I got all of these because not because I play them all, but because I get them rather than have them destroyed. And just like you did, Scan, with your MK, you still preserved the MK itself. Even though you drilled holes in it, you did what Whale said. You preserved the cabinet itself, and you actually improved it to a sense, because now you've taken this OG cabinet with OG hardware and made it so that an OG cabinet with OG hardware will work. Yes, and yeah, you did have to modify it slightly, but that wasn't you that had to modify that. That was Midway that modified how they made their games. They wanted to add that run button.
Right.
That wasn't you. You just kept up with what Midway had given you. This is the hardware that I got, and so I'm going to make that work. And like Adam, when he was talking about his racing cabs, I was one of those ones that was like, I'm seeing racing cabs that are gutted. Like, Adam, you can grab this racing cab that's already gutted and stuff. And he mentioned to me, he was like, well, because I said, I want to get some emulation racing cabs. He goes, yeah, we got two sitting right there, your initial Ds. And was the first thing I said. Absolutely not. Nope.
No.
Nope.
Not a chance.
I love you. Nope, not happening. Those are staying with me. So, but that's it. When you start looking at preservation, it's not just preserving the consoles and the games that are on the eShop and the arcades, but it's all of it goes together. And there is software that you can preserve, but then it's also preserving the physical stuff too. You got to take all of that stuff into account. And so you guys are awesome. I love this conversation. This conversation is great.
Could I add something real quick to what you're saying, Dan? Because like you and we're like brother from another mother as far as that goes. But you brought up something on a prior law episode that I've been thinking about during this episode. As much as we collect this stuff and we have the physical medium, once they got to, I forget what you said, GameCube, Dreamcast, Saturn, and the consoles went away from a cartridge, which you could throw off a building, like you said. It's going to boot up 40 years from now, as long as you have the right connectors. Once you got a little bit more complex and you got disc-based games, more things could go wrong. And you explained disc rot and like stuff like that. So unfortunately, I think those type of hardware, that's going to fail well before like the Atari 2600s and the Nintendos and Genesis and Super Nintendo and TurboGrafx 16 and stuff like that, because there's just not a lot of working parts, and you're going to be able to play your physical medium. I'm worried that 15 years from now, I want to play my Saturn and it's not going to turn on, or it's not going to boot up. The laser isn't going to read the discs anymore. So
that's why you buy three. Buy three of them.
Yeah, I have two.
Yeah.
Wolf, when I just got to say, like, when this whole community started, this whole group, and like I remember getting on like a Zoom call I think it was like one of the first times I ever got on one of your Zoom calls, and you were waiting on your machine, and you were talking to us and basically saying, hey, like, I got this collection and I'm selling it to pay for this arcade machine that I'm, this Megacade. And when you showed I don't even know what collection it was you had, dude, but it looked like it should have been in a fucking museum.
Yeah.
And I was like
know.
thinking, man, this guy is
You
legit,
just ripping
dude.
his
Like,
heart out. Scan just
It
heart
is.
just ripping it out.
This conversation hurts, Scan.
no, well, where I'm going with it is the fact that like you're kind of one of those dudes, like a perfect example of somebody who had been preserving that shit for a long time. Like anyone, I don't care who you are, even if you don't care about it, if they were to walk into your house and you opened up those doors, they'd be like, holy shit, dude, like that is impressive. You know what I mean? I don't care if you're not even into it. You know what I'm saying? Like that was impressive, dude. Like, I mean, that's preserving right there. You've been preserving.
Yeah.
And even though you sold it, other people are enjoying it now. It's still in circulation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
The guy that bought it is a famous YouTuber that bought my collection. I forget
Really?
his name. He's an asshole. Like he's I forget what his persona is, but if you said it, I would know. And he's opening up a museum to preserve like this type of stuff. And when he saw my stuff, he couldn't believe what good condition it was, because I have all the original boxes and the manuals and everything was complete and accessories. So, you know, I'm happy to say, even though I'm sad it's not with me, I know people are going to be able to look at it and it's going to be saved, hopefully, for a long time. So,
but you can also still play all of those games and 60,000 more. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that's why I still believe emulation is preserving things.
Agreed.
Too, so,
that's what hit with me is that, yeah, I had, you know, the NES, Genesis, Super Nintendo, PlayStation 1, but I didn't get to have every single game I would have liked to have played for those machines. And because of emulation and because of what we have in our homes now, I'm able to do that. Or I'm able to play a game that I used to have because, you know, but my growing up was like, once I reached the limit of having games for my parents, if you wanted a new one, you had to trade in another one. And there's games I still wish I never traded away, but my dumb self back then wanted a newer game or whatever and stuff. And now I can play that Super Nintendo game that I sorely miss, which I'm just going to throw out as Batman Returns. I love Batman Returns. For Super
Great
Nintendo.
game.
It was amazing.
Amazing
side-scrolling beat up. I hated selling that game to help get my Sony PlayStation 1, but
we'll get it for you, bud. I'll find it, or we'll find it.
I know.
And I'll buy it.
I'll find it at some point but still, it's just that's what we're talking about is emulation. Is, you know, we have the consoles back there and grew up with the cartridge and stuff, and they're gone. But now there is a way for us to get these games back, and it may not be the physical state with the instruction manual and the little clear thing you slid it into to protect the cartridge and, you know, the exposed area and stuff like that for Super Nintendos, but
don't expose yourself.
It's still there, and it still is good to play, and it still does give you that nostalgia feeling that you had back when you were, say, 7, 9, 10.
I run into that on arcades a lot. Arcade games, hidden gems, or games that I forgot that I played, and they spark that memory. Like, I remember the smell of feet and pizza at the bowling or at the roller skating rink and playing the original Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yep.
I remember that cabinet. I remember how greasy the control panel was. But those are memories that I would never be able to access because my Dan, the file finder, sometimes doesn't move as fast as he used to. And so, but the cool part is when you have certain things like emulation, when the wheels spin in or somebody tells you to do something, it'll trigger that memory, right? And it's not just preserving the software of the hardware, it's preserving the memories that you have. The times that I was at birthday parties with my friends and just, you know, like I said, the corn chip smell from people's toes, all of that kind of stuff, right? So, and like the greasy buttons and everything, like
cigarette burns.
Cigarette burns, 420.
The cold pizza, and the sticky carpet at Chuck E. Cheese for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Dude,
it is what it is.
Dude,
preserving memories, just like preserving all the other stuff.
When I was in Michigan last week or the week before, I sent you guys some pictures in our group chat, and I don't know how many of you guys saw it, but I sent you guys some pictures. Mm-hmm. I went through. My buddy and I were driving around town, went around some areas I hadn't been to in a long time, and we went to my childhood arcade. It was called Area Code 313. and I sent you guys pictures of what it's being used for now, which is like now Park Bingo Hall, and it's got some
that
gambling
lady
machines
giving you
in
the
the back.
stink eye.
Oh, bro, but just walking into that building for the first time in like over 20 years.
Mhm.
It was man, it was nostalgic, dude. I mean, I took a
Punched you in
picture
the
in this
face.
window, and now the whole room where the main arcade was is just used for like storage and bullshit. But like, I could look in there and be like, man, there was all the MKs down the left side of the wall. The Street Fighters were in the back. There was a Top Skater in the center of the room, and I was just like, you know what I mean? It was awesome going into that building.
Memories.
Yep.
I don't know if my homeboy liked it as much as I did, but I fucking loved it.
That's why I'm excited about Galloping Ghost. You know how excited, not
Yes.
only seeing you guys and being able to hang out and just grab a couple drinks and just kick it just with you guys, but it's more being in the environment with all of those old arcades and the memories that are going to strike, the conversations we're going to have, the situations that we're going to remember, that we're going to be able to share with each other is just going to be amazing. I mean, really, really it is. And I'm super excited. And it's, again, I'm now evolving a little bit of this talk. It's, for me, it's not just, it's coming down to preserving the memory of what these things are for me. Yeah, there's hardware, there's software, but it's preserving the memories that I have, but also trying to impart some of those memories and have other memories created for even my kids, or creating other memories for other people around these things that aren't going to be available forever. I mean, you try to make them available, but it's just this is actually making me so freaking happy. Like, this whole conversation, I thought I was going to be a little down because, oh man, we got all this stuff going on, but this whole conversation, having fun with you guys and talking about this stuff, is really, really just making me like straight up like excited about, like, really what life has to offer and what I've done in my life and what's coming up in life. It's awesome. So thanks.
Nah, man, listen,
I'm glad
it's been
you
awesome
said
to
that,
be here.
because it's like you said, sharing stories of what it brings to us, but then like you said, it's gonna be making new ones. So we're gonna be at the same machines that brought us joy however many years ago and stuff, and now we get to share it with the same kind of love and passion with you guys and other enthusiasts, and we get to make new memories with those same games with new people now.
Yep.
Like that's what I'm looking forward to. Like, I want to see like Scam playing some of this stuff and going against him in Mortal Kombat and just like hearing the stuff he's done, or watching Wolf play some Castlevania stuff, or Bauer going to town like on
Virtual racing.
on some virtual racing and fucking putting us all in our place. So like, bitches, this is how you do a 30-second, or whatever. And
Dude,
Larson next to a dragon's lair is like, watch some shit happen. And I just like that, to me, is worth it right there.
Agreed.
And it's I can't wait.
Any chance I get at work lately, when because it's been busy, but I've been playing virtual racing as my little escape. So bring your
bring your
right.
Cool.
And then just like, and then also like what we did a little bit in Vegas when we go and stuff, us going 4 wide on some NBA Jam, or like me, Wolf,
Dude.
Larson, and whoever else is going, doing like all 4 turtles going on a screen.
Open ice.
I was just going to bring up, dude. Yeah, that's right. I was just going to bring up Vegas, and honestly, I think probably the best night there for me was going to Area 15.
Area 15. Yep. Thank you.
That was, and then we were doing the loser pays, winner stays type setup with, we had that random guy with the mustache who was like, thought he was Mr. Eclectic coming up, like, I'm going to try and beat this guy with the fucking perfect hair playing Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. And that didn't happen. And then he came over to me at Killer Instinct, and I let him win one because he started to get a little testicles.
He got salty. That's right.
Did.
I remember that.
He got salty. He was already salty because of Killer Queen Black, or Killer Queen.
Yeah, that
because
was the
he talked
first
mess.
one. Then he tried it. He
Sorry.
tried Scan It with Hey, not a good idea. Then he tried me at Killer Instinct, not a good idea. And it's just, I didn't want to get throat punched because he's like, as Scan said in another one of these episodes, I don't know if it was a law or whatever, but black trench coat, greased hair stuff, and it's just like, I don't know what's going on with these guys. It's like,
dude,
you know what? It's not a big deal to me. I'll let you win with Chief Thunder. I'll lay low with Orchid, even though I'm not supposed to. But hey, it's cool. Whatever.
I've said it once. I'll say it again, man. Like, preserving stuff doesn't necessarily mean like. I like damaged pieces of my T molding. I don't mind seeing the dents in it. I got a freaking cigarette burn and a 420 scraped into my playfield on the plexi. I would never, ever, ever replace that. Because I know back in the day, some guy with a fucking trench coat set his cigarette on that plexi and he let it burn, dude.
Yep.
And he went to go get a beer or something. He came back, dude, and it's like at first I wanted to replace that stuff when I got it, never did it. Now there's not a chance in hell I would ever replace it. You know what I mean?
Man, that was a
called
boring
character.
story. You know the story I was thinking of, that he had a little bit of a friend down there that was, on some knees and was just like, let me set that down.
Yeah,
Oh,
Back in the day.
Eggplant.
back in the day when everybody
eggplant.
smoked.
Oh, so good.
Speaking of smoke, I think at that place that you're talking about, I was talking to Walls when you were playing
were.
Killer Queen Black.
It was fine.
You were in the lower level with like the Donkey Kong and the Galaga and stuff, and
Yeah.
you were
focused.
wondering what life was.
You were
fixing
having
to
I was
fun.
happen with
focused.
you.
Yeah.
I was definitely.
Yep.
I think the walls were talking to you.
They were,
And they
and
were
we
closing
were
in.
having full conversations back and forth. It was great.
All right. Does anybody else have anything that they want to talk about? We've been going for a little bit here. Do we want to go a little bit more? Or is this a good time to cut it, and we can have a secondary supplemental episode if we decide that
Yeah,
somebody
I
else
think
wants
so.
to get in on this?
Works.
I think it's a good time to cut the cord.
The only
Yeah,
thing
we're
I didn't
good.
mention was I hate de nouveau, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yes. Hey, was that a Dantron coin? Did I see a Dantron coin there?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
That's been up for a bit.
Nice.
Old
Oh,
school.
Man.
dude.
So anyways, thank you guys. I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to hang out. One take. This is how we do it. We do it live. One take, sitting on a couch, just hanging out and having great conversations with great friends, having a few sips of some nips. And I just want to say thanks again to my co-pilot Wolfman, Arcade Adam, Scantron 5K, and Wales. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you coming and just sharing some knowledge and some of your memories. It's been a lot of fun.
Right.
Man, thanks for having us, man. It's been a good time. This was actually a
Thank
good
you.
run, man.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. I love the episodes and stuff, and I can't wait for more stuff being pumped out.
Yeah. And I'll just say real quick, like I always do to end, these guys are not only friends, but important community members, and they have their own little channels going on. And I think if you're just tuning in for the first time, you should check out not only their channels, but I think everybody on screen, except for Wales and myself, they have not only YouTube channels, but stores where you could get merchandise. And some of it is being shown on screen right now. And so you need to tune in to Scantron 5K's YouTube channel, as well as Dantron 69K and Arcade Adam. They do great stuff. And with that, I look forward to the next episode.
All right, guys.
Some point on channels.
Thanks, Wolfman.
Later.
Thanks, Dantron.
Peace, brothers.